Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing a video that is going to be all about my little how do I say, tips and tricks for kind of getting through some of the pitfalls of editing. So these are some of the major pitfalls that I have noticed through my editing time, and I mean, really, if you've ever edited a book, you know where I'm going with this. So this video is in collaboration with Holly Davis over at WriteHollyDavis, and go ahead and check her out. I'm gonna put her links in the box below. So let's get started. So first off, the first pitfall I think is I made sure to let my manuscript rest for a month and then come back to it. And I literally kind of was like a racehorse out of the gate, just go. And for some people that probably works. I'm gonna go with, for me, it didn't work. Because it was just like, I was just so gung-ho, and every day I was editing and I was reading and I was making notes and things like that, that I feel like right after I got to a certain point with that, I pretty much got to like the end of the manuscript and just kind of felt like I needed to rest it again. So I think going so gung-ho and so hard at it and so fast and just like reading constantly and always being in my manuscript and always thinking about what needs to be done, things like that, I think I kind of burnt myself out a bit really quick. So I always say just be careful with your pace and everything. Maybe have like edit 2 or 3 pages and then, you know, move on to a higher goal if you feel like that's not enough, and then move up to like 5 pages a day or something like that. Just kind of set goals for yourself and kind of stick with that, so you're pacing yourself. You're not getting in too deep, or like what I had where I kind of got burnt out really quickly. Tip number 2 is going to be, when you're editing, don't be so hard on yourself, I guess. So editing it's very challenging, it's very difficult. And if this is your first novel, like it is for me, it's my first novel. I've had short stories and I've had, you know, I wrote for journalism and things like that. So I've written for a very long time. But my first novel, I'm reading it thinking that mine is going to be like up to par with, like, not thinking it's going to be up to par, but expecting it to be up to par with like Stephen King or any of my favorite authors, or like basically anybody, Jane Austen, like being up there par with people who have written several books. Don't be so hard on yourself. Let yourself understand that you are a newbie, especially if this is your first book. If it's your second book, you're still somewhat new. You're not a professional, you're not perfect, and no writer is ever going to be perfect. I've heard, you know, people say that, you know, they've written these X amount of books and they still kind of struggle with it, or they still feel like they have more room to improve. So really just kind of let yourself go a little bit. Just like, don't be so hard on yourself. Just understand that you're new, or that you're working on it, or this is a work in progress. And I think that did really kind of affect me too with my little bit of burnout stage, is that I was reading back through it and I'm like, this is crap. And like in my brain, I'm like, it made sense to me really when I wrote it, but apparently it came out and just, it's a piece of crap. So just understand that you are going to have to work on it. It is a work in progress, and it's okay to rewrite, which leads into number 3. It's okay to cut things out, add things in, change things around. It doesn't mean you're bad at it. It just means that, like I said, it's a work in progress. So I did have a lot of issues with when I was going through, doing my first read through and making notes. I kept going, damn, I want to add another scene there. Crap, I want to add another scene there. I need to add scene there. Oh my god, I'm going to take out this entire scene. Things like that. So I was getting hard on myself for changing full scenes, so revisions. So like either adding a scene or having to tweak something or change something. I changed the name of something, you know, when I was doing my first parts of my edit in the beginning of the book, and I had to go through the entire book because it was the name of something that goes through the whole entire book. So it's like, crap, now I have to go through the whole book to find this name throughout the whole thing and just change it, which is a kind of a pain in the ass. So it's one of those things that you have to understand that changes are going to happen, and it's okay. I'm pretty sure that if you ask any writer, like, you know, they may have added scenes or deleted scenes or changed scenes completely. I know that I remember reading somewhere that J.K. Rowling, her ending phrase for the Harry Potter books, the last book, book 7, she changed. you know, she had this mentality the whole time going through these books that this was going to be the last phrase, but then she changed it when she actually went to go finish the book. So it's like, it's okay to have major changes. It's okay if you want to take a character out, because when you go back and read through it, there might be a character that doesn't make sense. So you can delete the character, it's fine. It's a pain in the butt. It's a very long process, but it's okay, so you don't need to be hard on yourself about it. Understand that this is an evolving, changing, growing process. So you are going to be changing, evolving, deleting, adding, things like that, which is one of the things that I'm doing right now, is adding scenes in that I keep coming up with. Oh crap, I need to put a new scene there. So things like that. Tip number 4. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I read a lot of blog posts. I get a lot of information from other people on the editing process, and a lot of them have said, do this, 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 and this. And it's really been kind of like black and white, and these are the processes you have to do. I have found that that doesn't work for everyone, in the sense that, you know, I was looking for critique partners, and I had a couple people that I switched pages with, but it was just like nothing clicked for me. Even having a critique partner, I was like, they're only getting this beginning part, which is the setup of the whole story, so I'm getting a lot of changes that would have messed with what happened later in the book. Same thing with, I mean, I would assume the same thing with beta readers. I haven't quite gotten to that process yet, but I'm assuming the same thing with them. You have to take other people's opinions as they come, and just kind of go, that's not gonna work for me in my book, because I know, you know, it's my book, I know what's gonna happen later on. And for me, it's part of a trilogy, so it's gonna be, I know what's gonna happen in book 2, and I know most of what's gonna happen in book 3. So for me, if I change this here, it's not gonna link to book 2 or 3. So I know these things. So I have to understand what is going to happen in my books and where I want my books to go. And that's a huge thing, is knowing that your books are yours. Like, this manuscript is my manuscript. It's my story. And I completely welcome people's opinions on what, you know, needs to be done and changed. And I'm part of a writers group here in North Georgia that we meet once a month, and I've read sections to them that I kind of like wanted some like input on, and I get great input from them. And they're like, oh, this doesn't come across that well, or can you develop this one a little bit more? And you know, it's been things like the description on the director. They were like, that's, you know, she sounds like this amazing woman, but I feel like I'm not visualizing her when it's read. So maybe like put in a little more of a visual description. That's fine. I'm great for that. I'm like, thank you. That's what I needed. So, you know, when people are telling you basically to overhaul your book because of one thing or something like that, you have to look at it as, you know, your book, and you know your story, and you know where you want it to go and things like that. So you have to understand that they're not seeing all of it, and so you have to take it as that. Well, okay, you know, that would help. Maybe if I, you know, put this in there, this little blurb in there, that'll help clarify it. And then maybe people will understand that it's a foreshadowing for something else, which is the issue that I was coming up with some of the critiques that I had, was just that people were telling me these things didn't fit, and I'm like, but they fit later on, you know? And that is another part to it. When you're dealing with critique partners, beta readers, things like that, and I tell this to my students a lot, we've had this conversation before, that people are different. People come from different backgrounds, have different perspectives, have different ways of thinking. And so when you have someone saying, this is not how this works, you have their perspective of it. For me, that's my perspective of it. Like, that's one thing that really kind of, you know, I'm always kind of wary about when I send my stuff up to other people, is that I've had people tell me that I need to put in a character that is this, and this. And I'm like, why do I need to put in another character that doesn't fit the storyline? You know, I have people in it for a reason, and the way they are for a reason. And so I had someone telling me that one of my, the Aunt May, needed to be, I guess she said like handicapped or like disabled in some sort. And I think it's because Aunt May does put off that very maternal feeling, but I didn't want her to feel grandma-y. So the way she said it, I did take it as she needs to be like handicapped. She needs to have some kind of disability or something. And I said, you know, in my brain, I'm like, okay, I kind of see where you're coming from. You want Aunt May to be older. And I'm like, that's great, you know, but she's not, that's supposed to be that old. She's, you know, not supposed to be grandma age if she's the same age as Lexi's parents would be. So like my mother, let's go with this. My mother she's a grandmother, you know, of teenage girls. So she's not, you know, a spring chicken, but she's not like disabled and crippled, and she's not in a wheelchair, and she's not like slow. She helps run around with my nieces all over the place, taking them to and from things. She's, you know, she'll still, if my brother and I ever get out of track, she'll still like be like, no, this is how it works, you know. And it's the same thing with my grandmother on my dad's side. Like she's 80s, I think. Like she's grandmother age. So I think she's almost 92 actually. I feel like she is gonna be like 90 soon. This woman still will kick her grown children's butts. Like we'll still be like, you are not allowed to say that, you are not allowed to do that. So to me, like having a maternal feel and having like a grandmother and mothery feel doesn't mean that a woman's going to be, you know, in a wheelchair or with a walker or something like that, because I'm surrounded by women who are, you know, more mature and more grown, but still can, you know, cut it with the rest of us, can still, like my mom's, she jumps dogs, she does dock diving, trains dogs to do dock diving, and she's out there throwing this thing, and her dog weighs probably more than she does, but you know, she's still in control. And that's kind of like, that's where I'm coming from, is my perspective of things. And other people don't have that perspective because their parents probably are older or like, you know, just more sedentary in lifestyles, whereas my family's always been very go, go, go. So you have to take it from that. People have different perspectives of things. I had one reader tell me once that Trent shouldn't be single in his 30s, like his early 30s, because he was military. And I'm like, what? So like to me it didn't click, because I'm like, my parents were military. I was raised around the military. I know several military men that were single because they were like players, or like because they just didn't have met the right person or something like that. I know a lot of them that did at a very young age, but it's the same with any other lifestyle. Some are gonna get married young, some aren't gonna get married young. Like there is no reason, there's no law that says a 30-year-old man cannot be unmarried and in the military. Like that was one like thing that didn't click for me, but apparently from his point of view, maybe he knew people in the military that were all got married at a young age. Like I said, I was raised around a military family as well, military parents. I met a lot of like 29, 30, like in that range, that early 30s, late 20s range, that were not married. And you know, and I still know actually a lot of them because my husband is a police officer. So a lot of them came out of the military and came into, you know, the police force, and I still know a lot of them. So it's just, you have to understand that everybody's going to have different perspectives. So don't let things like that get you down or make you change your whole book, which can be very frustrating if you change your whole book and you go, nope, I liked it the way I wanted it. Just take like people's opinions as such. It's their opinions, and you have the final word on these things. And I think that was probably, besides the first little burnout that I had at the, you know, trying to go out of the gate like a racehorse, I think that was probably the second biggest issue that I've had in this editing process, is that when somebody gives me something back, I'm so excited to get feedback, but it's, you know, I've had also ones that don't want to change anything in it, but will tell me this character doesn't sound completely developed. Maybe you need to develop this relationship a little more, something like that. Which I've been very thankful for feedback like that. But yeah, when people tell me, you know, well, like with Trent, like he's a military man of 30 years old, he should be married because all military men of 30 years old are married. And I'm sitting going, no, no they're not. Especially now because people are getting married much later in life. So you have to just take it as such. And that was one of my big things, was just sitting here going, I don't understand why, you know, why people are telling me a definitive thing where I'm like, the world doesn't work that way. There's no definitives in this world. And especially writing sci-fi and fantasy, there's no definitives in those. I get to make that shit up as I go. So I'm very excited about that because I literally can create whatever world I want. And that's what I think I love about sci-fi and fantasy, is I can just let my imagination run wild and not have to be pinned down to, it's not definitives either. It's just like the reality, I guess. or like the majority rule kind of thing. I think with fantasy, I can make up whatever I want. And if I want to make, you know, aliens that are pink and purple with rainbow noses, I mean, I can. And that's the great thing about it. So you really have to take, when you get feedback from anybody, you have to take it as, okay, process it, okay, that, I can see that, or yeah, that doesn't really work for the, you know, later on or something like that. You have to take it as it is your book and it's your story and you've got to write your story. And I mean, be accepting of it and be thankful for people giving you opinions, because that does help you. With the last critique swap that I had, I did really enjoy the feedback that I was getting, because she wasn't very much like, she wasn't telling me this is wrong or this never happens. I think she really did do a good job with understanding that this is a sci-fi and it's my world and I can create it however I want and I can create my characters however I want. And that is really important. If you are switching with someone who's like a nonfiction writer, and you're a fantasy writer and you write about fairies and stuff, I don't think that they're going to give you good feedback. So make sure if you are switching, you're switching with people at least that read that genre or within that genre and understanding that genre, because, you know, people are going to start looking for what they're used to being around, which is, you know, if it's nonfiction, it's nonfiction, it's true stuff. So, but I think she did a great job with that, and she gave me some good feedback on like relationships where, you know, this relationship at the beginning, you know, these first couple chapters feels like this, and I don't know how you're going to develop it throughout the rest of the book, but just, you know, so you know, this is what it feels like, and I don't know if that's what you're going for, but just letting you know, which I really appreciated that. I really appreciated her telling it me that way, because I was like, okay, good, you know, you're not telling me to change my first 4 chapters, you know, you're telling me, okay, this is what's being perceived, you know, I don't know if that's how you want it, but there you go, that's the way it's being perceived. And that's what I really loved about it, is because then I could say, yes, that's exactly what I was going for, thank you, you know, or I was kind of going for that, but maybe I should like tone it down a little bit or add a little more, something like that. My last tip for editing and trying to avoid editing pitfalls is going to be to kind of keep to a schedule. Like I said earlier on in the video, having like a schedule of like, try and edit 2 or 3 pages a day, or 5 pages, or however many you feel like you can do depending on your schedule. Keep to that schedule. And it is very hard. It's okay to have, like, if you go on a family vacation and you can't do it, or if something's going on, first day of school for kids, something like that. If something's going on that you can't do it that day, it's okay. Let it go. You'll pick it up the next day. It's fine, you know. Just make sure that you do keep to it. You'll have life situations come up. I had 2 vacations during the summer. Summer's a crazy schedule for me anyway, because I work with kids, and when kids are out of school, I work more with kids. So it's just constantly remembering that it's okay if you don't, you know, if you have this schedule, if you miss a day, it's okay. You can pick it up the next day and you'll be fine. But yeah, try to stick to that schedule, because I know with my vacations, between my 2 vacations, it did not go well. I had my first vacation to Denver, and then basically work and life kind of got in the way, so I didn't edit anything until my second vacation. Then I was at my second vacation and I was like, I should probably edit, but then like we were just doing too much, so I didn't do anything. So when I got back, I was like, I've got to get back into my schedule. So it's just, I know that sometimes you fall off your schedule, but really try to get back into it and get back into your schedule, because that's the main part of editing, is if you're not actually editing, you're not really doing anything, you're not going to get any further. So you really have to stick to a schedule. So that's it for my video on kind of like the pitfalls of editing, as well as trying to kind of help you guys avoid them. Just remember that the process is completely different for everybody. You can do it at your pace, you can do it your way. There is no black and white set, here's how you have to do it kind of a thing. So just remember that it's just you, and try to be zen about it and just breathe. It's okay. You will get there. You will get to the end. And that's all I have for you. Don't forget to check out Holly Davis's video. I put the links in the description box below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.